Sounds good. I'm gonna be grinding on campaign for a little bit. Till we actually hit the half-hour mark. So don't mind the tippy tapping. Oh, I don't know who Pumpkin Roll is, but I'm presuming it's someone. Maybe Kai? I don't know. I think I need to take this stuff off my chair. My table too small. Yeah, there we go. It was like I'm having to bend over way too much. Yeah, like I said a few minutes ago, since Soda, you just said you're joining, I'm not really doing anything right now. Oh, hello. I heard a notification sound. Oh, that's what it was. I'm not really doing anything right now, I'm just campaign grinding for the next 60 seconds. If anything interesting happens, I'll make sure to let you know. I had 2 woo-woo encounters and got neither of them, so it's not the bones. Rip and Roni. Okay, Bestie is not happy. Come on, Lorwolf, I believe in you. That's one of the good things I like about Arena, is that it requires a lot less like processing power for the site, as far as I can tell, than like campaign, because you're constantly refreshing with campaign or going to a new screen, but then with Arena, it's just like the one screen, and so it seems to not lag anywhere near as much. Like, it still definitely can, but it's nowhere near as bad as campaign can get. So that's honestly one of the things that I do like about it, because everyone's like, oh, it's so slow, and I'm like, yes, that's good! Okay. I know it just ticked over to 30, but I want to finish my stamina bar. I'm sorry. Okie dokie. Hi. Hello. Okay. Oh, so that's Soda. I was wondering who was... Huh. I wonder who Pumpkin Roll was. Maybe that was Kai. Because it said 32 minutes ago, well, it said that a few minutes ago, it was like, oh, you have a new follower, and I'm like, okay, I don't know who this is. I'm going to assume it's someone in the Discord. But, yeah, okay, so what I've got planned so far is that I'm just gonna, first of all, I just realized I should pull the notes up on my phone so I can reference them while I am talking. That would probably be helpful. And yes, and hi Faya too. Hi! Okay, so the plan is I'm just gonna go over just some of the basics of like how, first of all, how Lorwolf's combat system works, because that is very intrinsic to how Arena works naturally. And just covering just as much basics as I can, I think, just basics of stats and whatnot, and of different move sets like your passives, auto attacks, and specials, and how those work, and just some examples of them, and then the synergies and my personal opinions on them. Again, my word is, or well, not again, I guess. I thought this earlier, but I never said it. So again, to me, who had this thought, my word is definitely not law. These are just my opinions and things that I found helpful. So, you know, tactics and whatnot, that's all up to you. This is just how I feel about things, and this is just what my experiences have been. And then I'm going to cover some of the more details of how Arena works specifically, like how it's set up and how the minigame itself works outside of the things that it shares over the combat system. And then once that's done, gonna play around or two, at least one though, and just try my best to explain what's going on while I'm playing. Hopefully I will be able to do two things at once. That might be a tall order. We will find out. So, and I apologize in advance for what's about to show up on screen, because I couldn't get it to broadcast like a browser without it being really glitchy and laggy. So the streaming gameplay is just everything that's on my screen. So when it shows the Twitch studio thing, it makes one of those like endless loop things, and it's very not fun to watch. So sorry for this. We switched. Okay, yeah, and there we go. Moving that aside. Isn't that fun? Yeah, okie dokie. What just got clicked on? What is happening? I don't want to watch someone else's stream. What are you doing? Okay, now I'm back on mine. I was like, okay, there we go. Okay, so here is my lovely PowerPoint. The Flight Rising suggestion forms. I mean, this is how Lorwolf PvP works by Arena Georg. So first things first, the Lorwolf combat system. I'll full screen this afterwards, because this slide just has some links and stuff, so afterwards it's all in the slide, so I'll full screen it afterwards so you guys can see better. But for right now, I just want to give some examples of stats and just a little overview of how those work. And I'll zoom in a bit, because I know that I play a bit zoomed out. So this is just one of my wolves. This is Jolie. And you can see down here the combat information. There it shows the different moves that they have because they're a Jockle, and then it shows the synergies up here that they also have by being a Jockle. And then I wanted to point out the stats down here, which shows the base health, attack, defense, speed, crit, and dodge chance that they have. And I don't believe that there's any way to see how things scale as they level up. If there is, I am unaware of it, and I would very much appreciate someone telling me. But as far as I'm aware, you don't really have a good insight into what the scaling is. We just have the base stats that are shown on screen, but you can see here that Jockles have pretty decent health and speed, kind of mid-range attack and a little bit higher and a little bit above their attack defense. But they're pretty mid-range all around in stats, and then they have a 10% chance for crit and a 10% chance for dodge, which is good because there are some companions especially that don't have either of those things, so 10% is quite nice, honestly. So that's just an example of a Jockle, and then pulling up one of my kits. Here you can see that she has lower health, but she does have higher speed and higher defense, and her attack is the same as the Jockles, and so she kind of balances out in her own way. I don't know. To be honest, I'd love to figure out which one matters more. Like, does health or defense matter more? Because at the end of the day, they kind of offer the same thing of, like, keeping your wolf alive. But I'm going to be honest, I have no idea which one is worth more. If it's more valuable to have higher health or higher defense, or if it even matters. But yeah, so you can see here that kits are really fast, which is good considering the fact that it's an auto battler, as I'm sure you're all aware by now that Lorwolf runs on an auto battle system. So it's not turn-based, they just go as they go, and so kits having a higher speed means that they tend to get to go a lot sooner than a lot of other things. But also has a 10% crit and a 10% dodge chance, as you can see. And so that's just an example of how stats differ with a different wolf breed. And then just opening up a few companions. I'll just go ahead and open up all of them, make it easier. Just to give a small example, because these you can find in the companions section under your den tab. It will open up to this page, which shows, this currently just shows everything that I have, but then you can click to show all, which will show all companions that exist, and there's different ways you can organize them by name, level, rarity. I don't even know what group is, actually. What is group? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that existed, but that makes sense. Because each, as I'm sure you're all aware, familiars, each one has a color dupe, recolor, that's the word. But yeah, and so that's the companion page. And then when you click on one of them, you'll be met with this screen, which shows a bunch of different things. From their play rewards, if you have them equipped to your wolf, to things that they can possibly drop when you fight them in combat. But what I'm more interested in looking at is over here with the combat section, just like with the wolves. You can see the different synergies, their attacks, and then their stats. And so Firmuses are even faster than kits are, and have a bit higher health as well. But to balance them out, on a downside, they have no dodge chance, inherently. Now, one thing that I'm going to mention real quick is, but we'll cover again later, is that Tactician 1, which is the pink synergy up here, by having a single Tactician synergy in your team, every ally gets an additional 5% dodge chance. So if a wolf or a companion has a Tactician synergy, they're automatically going to get a 5% dodge chance on top of what they have. So the Firmus is listed as a 0% dodge chance, but technically speaking, it's really a 5% dodge chance, because it has a Tactician synergy, so it's automatically going to get that Tactician 1 synergy effect of the 5% dodge. And I'll cover that again when we get to Tactician, but just that's something that I noticed when I was looking through these things, and I just think that that's something interesting to point out, because you look at that and go, oh, it doesn't have a base dodge, and it's like, yes, well, yes, but technically no. But yeah, so that's an example of the Firmus. And then looking over here at the Cancitonis, you can see that the Cancitonis has a much higher health stat than anything else that we've looked at, and a higher attack, but has a pretty low defense and speed, but does have a good 10% of each crit and dodge. So your Cancitonis is your really big is your much beefier guy of the 4 that we've looked at so far, and is more of the attacker. And it makes sense why the health would be so high, given how this creature's passive works, which is that it inflicts poison debuffs on enemies that attack it. So it makes sense that you would want it to have high health, because it's getting attacked a lot in order to inflict poison damage, so makes sense. And again, I'll go over that more in detail when we get to that section, which we will shortly. And then just one more I just wanted to look at. The Bumble Monster Pod, which has a base health that is freaking stupid. 45! But is also quite weak and pretty slow as a result, and has kind of mid-range defense, but it just... Again, I don't know which is more advantageous, defense or health, but I can tell you that the Monster Pod has stupid health. And this one actually does have a dodge of 0% chance of 0% because it doesn't have a tactician synergy, so it does not automatically get that 5% dodge like a Firmus would, so that base dodge of 0 is actually relevant here. And it has a 10% crit too, and, you know, that's not super... It's not super important to memorize each of these individual stats. I haven't memorized all of the stats of everything, definitely not. I kind of have a feel for different things based on playing, but I definitely don't have them all memorized. It's just something to look at and something that you can look at and consider. Because it doesn't show up in Arena. I'm not quite sure why, but it doesn't show their stats. It shows their movesets, but it doesn't show stats in the Arena. So that's something that you have to look at outside of the games if you want to see it. And that's just sort of an example of like where to find it and just looking at a few different ones and seeing how they vary. Oh god, that is so unpleasant to look at. Endless loop going over. But okay, so now I can do the actual slide presentation. Because there's no more links to follow. So the passives are, I pointed out a few of them earlier, but they're basically effects that the wolf or companion, I'm just going to say that right now that the way Arena works and the way it's laid out, it made me think of like a card game, like one of those online card games. And so I personally refer to them as being cards in Arena because you have a shop and you refresh it and you're drawing more cards out of it. So to me, it feels like a card game. So I think of them as cards because it's so hard to figure out what to say with just like, oh, you have your wolves and then your companions. And so it's just like, I just refer to them as cards. So just a heads up that that's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm talking about all of the things on your team, your wolves and your companions. I just call them cards. That's just me personally. But yeah, so your passives are just effects that your cards naturally have. And this is just a few examples of some of them, just to give an idea of like some of the different variations that you can find, because there's a bunch of different ones. You saw some of them when we were looking at the wolves and the companions. But you can see hyped is personally my favorite one, because it means that the character always attacks twice in a row. Sorry, I was just saying, I'll call them cards, and then I read character and it threw me off, but that's the actual text of it. But yeah, so the hyped means that the card always attacks twice in a row, which I personally have found to be extremely useful, and some of my favorite cards have hyped. And I don't really have many complaints to say about that one. It's personally my favorite passive effect. Toxic Secretions is another one that I really like. You saw that on the Cancetonus when we were looking at it. That's the swan bird, stabby swan, bug thing. Not a bird, danger bird. However you would like to refer to it. I mentioned it then, and I'm covering it again now, is that enemies who attack this card gain a poison debuff, dealing 30% damage over 2 turns. And that's just the passive effect of the card, is that it automatically results in a debuff on any enemy that attacks it. And then Massive Passive, which is a rhyme, which might be most of why I put it in here. But it's another example, and it's one that I quite like. It gives you an additional 20% health. And there's a similar passive called Toughness that you see around a lot more. Not a lot of cards have Massive, but Toughness is on a lot more of them. And it says that you take 10% less damage. And so, obviously I don't know all the numbers behind it, but to me, Massive seems like a much better passive that does essentially the same thing. In the way it actually ends up affecting it. But you see Massive around a lot less more. A lot less more. You see Massive a lot less. There's fewer cards with Massive. That's what I'm trying to say. I speak the English language. I talk as if I have another option. And so that's just some examples of just passives. They're just effects that are just on the card, and they can be very varied depending on what they are. And there's a bunch of different ones. This is just 3 of them, but they're what they sound like. They're passive effects that the card just naturally has at all times. And then auto attacks are, because Lorwolf is an auto battler, this is the general attack that your card will make against other cards on the enemy team. And so it just happens naturally, and who attacks first is determined by speed and whatnot, and that's just how the rounds progress. And your auto attack is just the move that they're going to make on the general when they attack. And so Patience is the worst auto attack in the history of auto attack ideas. It's just do nothing. You generate energy, but just don't do anything. Like, what? That's not an attack. That's passing your turn. I choose not to attack. That's what it is. It's not an attack. Patience sucks. I don't know why patience exists, other than to make things more difficult. Swipe is one that I don't know if it exists on any card other than the Thrasher, which is the big Spinosaurus thing. It's the one from the fishing event. It attacks everyone in the front row for 50% damage, and if you eliminate all enemies on the front row, then yes, that attack applies to the entirety of the back line. If there is no more front line, then the back line is now the front line, and so it attacks all of the enemies on the back line for 50% damage in that case. And so it's pretty good overall. I quite like the swipe. Tail swipe is a different attack. I quite like swipe, but it can be a little bit sketchy if you're up against a lot of enemies that have toxic secretions, like I just mentioned in the passives, or enemies that have Thorny, which is another similar passive to toxic secretions that causes a debuff that does damage over time to whatever card attacks it. So especially with the Thrasher, because that's the only one that I know of that has swipe, Thrasher also has hype, so it will automatically attack everyone twice every turn. And so say there's 2 enemies in the front row that one has toxic secretions and one has Thorny, the Thrasher's going to attack both of them twice and get 4 debuffs by the time its attack is over. So I think swipe is really nice. I like it, but depending on what you're up against, it can hurt you. But overall, I think it's generally pretty good. It just can be dangerous when you're up against things that have those kinds of debuff inflicting abilities. Spit, to my knowledge, is the auto attack that only exists on the Kuzma. It may exist on others, I'm going to be honest. I don't know. But it just does 150% damage. There's no downside. It's just decided to be OP. I don't know. It just decided to come out strong today. Spit just decided, I'm just going to do extra damage for no reason at all. I'm just filled with anger. And then Siphoning Scratch is one that you'll find on a lot of healing cards. A lot of different allies that can heal will often have Siphoning Scratch, and it attacks the target for 100% damage and randomly heals a damaged ally for 100% of the damage done. So it's kind of like it's like all those moves that you see of just like, oh, you bite the enemy and you take some of the damage done for your health or whatnot, but this heals another enemy. Though I'm like 99% sure, I just can't remember exactly off the top of my head, and it's one of those things where it's like, if you'd asked me right before I went live, I would have been like, yeah, it does that. But now that I'm saying it, it's like, but does it? But does it? I'm 99% sure that Siphoning Scratch also, can be used on the user and that they can heal themselves, but does it? I'm 99% sure, but yeah, so Siphoning Scratch is just a damage dealing attack that also does healing. It's quite nice. And then I feel like I might have missed something. Oh no, now I know why this slide is here. I was like, wait a minute, I thought I had a slide for specials. What happened? Right, I have this quick note here to cover the differences between stamina and energy. Stamina is what you'll find on your wolf page, which is the bar that that replenishes slowly over time, and can also be replenished by feeding your wolf. That's what allows you to go out and do things and to explore, and every encounter or any use of a profession eats up stamina. And then energy is what you have in a fight. It's this yellow bar underneath the health bar of both yourself and the enemies. And what that does is that with every auto attack and any time that card receives damage, that energy bar starts filling up. And when it hits full, the card will do its special move, which is what we're about to cover. And so just because I know that the words can often kind of get mixed up and we refer to all of them, we refer to both of them as energy. I don't think I've really seen energy, the combat energy, referred to as stamina before, but I know that both of them can get referred to as energy. So just that's the difference, in that when this is technically called stamina and this is called energy, so when you see things in-game referencing energy, this is what it's talking about. It's talking about this bar underneath your wolf or your companion's health bar, that when it's completely full, it will allow that card to inflict its special attack, which is what we're about to cover. So specials they're the special moves that are done when that card's energy bar reaches full. I'm not sure. If someone else knows for sure, that'd be great, but I'm 99% sure Noble Inspiration is broken, because I feel like it doesn't last 2 turns. Because I'm pretty sure that 2 turns is supposed to be like, oh, you go and the enemy goes, that's turn 1, then you go and the enemy goes, and that's turn 2. But I feel like, Noble Inspiration always just like disappears after the turn in which it's cast in my experience. Like, as far as I remember, so like if your card that does Noble Inspiration is the last one to go, then it literally just wastes a turn. And so, am I wrong? I don't know, but I feel like it's broken. All I know is that it sucks, and I don't like it. And the Unicorn has this, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like the Unicorn. The Vespin gets a pass because I love Vespins. They're special. And they have Siphoning Scratch, so they get a pass for that too. But it's a really bad special, in my opinion. And Berserk is on thin ice, but it does seem to work properly, and that I have seen it, continue to persist throughout the 2 turns it's supposed to. And it can be nice. It depends a lot on your team setup, because if you have a team setup where your synergies are giving you a bunch of extra critical strike chance, it's just kind of like, well, you're kind of wasting a move. Because like if you already have an 80% chance to do a critical, giving yourself a 100% chance to do a critical doesn't do a whole lot. But for Berserk, the card just gives itself 100% critical strike chance for 2 turns. And yeah, if you have a team setup that doesn't give a lot of critical strike bonuses, it can be pretty nice. Also, I'm just going to say right here that that you are seeing everything that I can see right now. I can't see the chat. So just, hi, but if you have any questions, I'll look at them in a minute. When I'm done, I can't see anything right now. And then a few examples of some other specials. Coordinate is one that it depends. Sometimes it can be good, and other times it can kind of be a waste. It means that only allies will attack the next round. But what I have noticed is that if your team uses Coordinate and then the enemy's team uses Coordinate, they cancel each other out. So that can be unfortunate. But Coordinate can be good. It can be good. It's kind of situational, but to be honest, I don't know enough. I don't have enough experience to be able to tell you what kind of situation specifically it's good in. All I can tell you is that it is kind of situational. And Festive Feels is a special that it sounds really good on the surface when you just kind of glance over it, but then when you stop and think about it, it's really not that good. It's a healing special, and it gives a healing over time effect to the caster and to one ally, and it heals them for 10% health over 2 turns. And it's just like, that sounds really good. And just like at a glance of like, oh, it heals both yourself and an ally over time. It's just like, yeah, that's a good idea, but 10% is really just not a lot. It's okay. It's a healing special, but it's really not that great. Now, Blossom Maul, which is what your Jockals have as their special, and to my knowledge are the only ones with that special, is really nice because it attacks for just 180% damage. The Jockal just practically does double damage because they just feel like it. And then whatever damage it inflicts, that 180% damage done, it heals all of your allies for that. And so, yes, the Jockal can only heal you with its special, but my god, is it a good heal. It's just, Blossom Maul is wonderful. We love Blossom Maul. And there's, a bunch of other specials. This is just a few of them. And honestly, like, with the others, I put up, with the passives and auto attacks, I showed off some of the ones that I do kind of like. I didn't really, the only special on here that I'm really like super big on is Blossom Mall. Coordinate's okay. And Festive Fields, it's okay. It's not the best. It's kind of meh, but it's okay. And Coordinate's kind of circumstantial and I haven't quite figured it out. So there are other ones that I like a lot more. For some reason, I just decided to put some of the ones that I don't like and I guess I just wanted to rag on Noble Inspiration. That's what I wanted to do. And then, so those are your movesets, and that's just the general movesets. You know, every card has a passive, an auto attack, and a special, and that's just a few examples of some of them, and that's just a quick summary on how they work. So the next part of the combat system that we need to talk about is your synergies, which is, it's what I was mentioning earlier with those little symbols above each companion or wolf. These contribute to an overall sort of collection of those symbols, which are your synergies. And when you hit certain amounts of them, you get certain effects that are applied as they are described. And so, for instance, in this little screenshot, this is just the current team that I have in my campaign at this moment, because I have a Jockle, a Kit, and a Moorbear because I'm leveling the Kit and the Moorbear. And so altogether they have 6 of these protector synergies, which are the blue ones, 1 healer, 1 support, and 1 tactician. So you can see here that there's these little symbols, or it's kind of hard to see because of the low quality and small screen, but you can kind of see here that there's these like little grayed out symbols at certain marks along here. And those are synergy effects that I do not have, but these ones that are in color are synergy effects that the team does have. So this team currently has the effects from these 2 protector synergies and from this tactician synergy. So those are just kind of how a general look at what synergies look like and how you can find them. They'll just be in these bars that you'll find by your team. And the grayed out symbols you don't have access to, and the ones that are colored in like this means you do have them and they are applying to your team. So Assailant is the red one that you'll see. I don't know why I didn't put like a little visual of what each synergy looks like, but I guess we'll look at that later. But I like Assailant. Assailant's pretty good, especially because most of the Assailant cards that are like, especially the ones that have 2 or more assailants, also have Pack Mentality, which is a passive. Because the Assailant synergies, when you have four of the little Assailant symbols combined in your team, it increases damage by all your allies by 20%, and when you have 8 of them, it increases the damage by 40%. And so it's basically just a giant attack buff. And the nice thing about that is that a lot of your a lot of your cards that have 2 or more Assailant synergies also have Pack Mentality as their passive, which is a passive that means that they increase the attack of other allies with Pack Mentality by 10%. So not only are you getting the Assailant bonuses from the synergy, a lot of those cards also have Pack Mentality, and so they're helping to boost each other's attack even further while they're going. Of course, you're probably going to have 1 or 2 cards that don't have Pack Mentality, so they won't be getting those extra bonuses, but for the ones that do, which are likely going to be the ones that are doing most of the attacking, they're going to get extra bonuses, and so they kind of work out together. Pack Mentality and Assailant kind of work well together, and make a really good attack bonus for whatever team you're going with. And Assailant's strong enough that it can generally be kind of like your single focus in a team and do pretty well with it, because every team can be countered, but all in all, Assailant's a pretty good synergy, and you can kind of focus in on it if you want, and you'll generally do pretty good. Protector is that blue one that I was pointing at earlier, and like I say on the screen, it's one that you just kind of end up with by having Kits and Jockles in your team, because in my campaign team, like I said, I'm leveling a Kit and a Moorbear, and because Kits and Jockles just both have 2 Protector synergies, I just naturally kind of wound up with a Protector synergy. Without even trying, it's just kind of there. You just kind of end up with it if you use Kits and Joggles. And it's pretty good. It increases the health of your allies, as you can see in these descriptions. 4 of them get a 20% health bonus for all allies, 6, 30, 8, 40. And so, that's good. That's pretty good. But Lorwolf does unfortunately have a mechanic in Arena and whatnot, where if it goes past 20 rounds of your team and the enemy's team going back and forth. If 20 rounds are exceeded, then it cuts it short and both you and the enemy lose 5 health. And it's like, I get why. I understand why it exists. It reduces server load by making sure that you and the enemy team don't just stand there and hit each other with sticks on ad infinitum and just crash the server. It cuts the amount of work that the server has to do, and especially when the game is so young and doesn't have, the big beefy servers that a lot of other games might have, it's necessary to make sure that things continue to function. And so it's like, yes, I get why the stalling out mechanic exists. It's still annoying. And it's still upsetting when it affects me, like, God damn it. Because it's like, this should be really good. And it is, unfortunately. But there's just a few other things that happen in the game that cause it to not be so great. So it can be good, but you gotta be careful with it, because it can make you stall out pretty easily. Healer is, I can't tell you exactly why, but in my experience it has a less risk of stalling out than Protector does. But it's exactly what you think. It gives you healing effects. It's exactly what it sounds like. And as far as I can tell, the reason it works better than Protector is that, just trying to think off the top of my head, I think a lot of the cards that have more healer synergies, and so would allow for you to get these overall synergy effects, tend to be more damage dealing than some of the ones that have more Protector synergies. And so as far as I can tell, I think that's it. But don't take my word on that. That's just me kind of just thinking out loud, so to speak. I'm not really sure. But yeah, like it says on the screen, it just gives your allies a healing over time effect that lasts for a couple turns at the beginning and helps your guys stay nice and strong. And then support is one that I really didn't like when I first started. Say, can work. It depends on what your specials your team has. Because what support does is it gives, at the start of the battle, it gives your allies additional energy, which is what they need in order to do their special moves. And so if you have a team that has a lot of good specials, where having those specials happen a lot would be really good, or especially towards the beginning of the battle, then support can really help. Especially because, cards that focus in on support also have specials and passives and the like that help to generate more energy, especially Motivate, which is a special that casts, I think, 25 energy per turn for a couple of turns on all allies. And so having cards that can cast Motivate often come with a lot of support synergies. And so if, say, you have 1 or 2 cards that can do that, and then you have your other 3 are really beefy attackers, it can work out pretty well. Again, everything can be countered, and so you have to think about it, and support-heavy cards aren't typically the strongest, so don't focus on it entirely, or your team's really not going to be strong. But if you can get it in alongside cards that have pretty good specials, it can work. It's pretty sketchy, but I like it more than I did when I first started, because I'm starting to learn how to implement it better. Because it absolutely can be. It's just kind of, it's very situational and depends on the layout of your team and the like. So Rogue is going to be, it's one that's, it's hard to explain quite, because it's good and it works well, but it's not good enough to have it be your single focus, usually, and to do well, because I did just win a match, I think, yesterday, having largely focused in on Rogue, but I was also up against only bots. So that probably would not have worked up again if I was playing against other human players. It's really good, but it generally needs to be paired with another synergy, especially the stronger ones, which are Assailant, which we covered, and then Primal and Tactician, which we're about to get to. So it's good, but it generally needs to be paired with something else in order to really be used to its maximum effectiveness. So the reason it's good is Rogue One, it's alright. That just means that your your rogue cards will prioritize backline enemies. And so since that's a 1, that means that if you have a single card that is a air quote rogue because it has a rogue synergy, it's going to automatically attack the backline enemies. And that will be true for all of your rogues. And 2 of them, all allied rogues, gain a 10% critical strike chance, 4, 20% chance, and then 6 is they all gain a 30% critical strike chance, and they prioritize the lowest health enemy on the backline. And again, like with the swipe that I was discussing earlier, with how it targets the front line, but then when the front line's eliminated, it goes to the back line. Same here, when the back line's eliminated, they don't just stop attacking, they go to the front line now. What was the front line priority previously, but is now the only line. So they don't just like stop attacking. And so that allows them to kind of target in and whittle away at certain cards. And Rogue especially, one of the big things that you need to think about is A, it generally needs to be paired with another pretty strong synergy, but then B, you also have to think about like what the enemy team comp is, and like what is on the back lines and what's on the front lines, and how is that going, and how is the difference in targeting for what your team is doing going to affect things. Because if you have 4 rogues on your team to get that rogue 6 synergy, and they're all going after the back line and targeting that, but the cards that are on your enemy's front lines are really strong, and they're starting to wipe out your cards, all of your cards are attacking the back line. And so they're just going to get wiped out by these really beefy attack cards on your enemy's front line, and they can't hit them because they're too busy hitting the back line. And so you don't have anything to attack the front line. And so Rogue also again, everything depends, but I'm saying that a lot and I'm going to keep saying it. But yeah, Rogue can generally be countered by having really strong enemies on the front lines that will just start wiping out the cards that can't hit them because they're too busy targeting the back line. But overall, Rogue is pretty good. It does give you that extra critical strike chance for your rogues, and so again, the more rogues you have, the more cards are going to be getting that extra critical strike chance. So, yeah, Rogue works pretty well. It generally needs to be paired up with another synergy, but it's generally pretty good. Primal, which I'm very confused as to why it's called Primal, because why not just call it Poison? Because that's what it does. It says that it inflicts poison. So I don't know why it's not just called Poison, but whatever. Primal's really nice. It's, like I just said, it inflicts poison damage. It's pretty good. They can't really block it, so that's great. Unlike some attacks where they can just kind of dodge it, the poison debuff is automatically applied at the start of the battle, and they can't really avoid it. They're just going to automatically get slapped with it. And as you can see here, 3 primal, 1 random enemy loses 30% of their health to poison over the first 5 turns, and at 5 primal, 3 random enemies will lose 50% of their health over 5 turns, which can be quite devastating. But the thing to keep in mind with it is that it can be countered by if the enemy has a team that is really, really strong and is really fast and is going to eliminate you really fast. Primal is inherently a damage over time situation. And so if the enemy is just going to, like I say here, bonk you into oblivion in 3 turns, then the poison doesn't really have enough of a chance to be super effective. So you need to take into consideration that it's generally a very good choice to focus in on, but if your enemy does have like really strong cards that can just bring you down really fast, it doesn't really have a chance to do its thing because it's inherently a damage over time, so you need time in order for it to really be as effective as it can be. So that's what you need to keep in mind with poison, but primal, whatever, you know what I mean. But all in all, it's really good. It's very well loved, and for good reason. Taking a drink of water real quick. I'm sad about Dueler. Because I loved it so much when I first started, because it sounds so good. But in practice, now I'm realizing it kind of sucks, and that's so sad because I have so many memories of just like, oh, I love Dueler, Dueler's the best, and now I'm realizing that no, it actually sucks. It's so sad, F in the chat. But yeah, Dueler is, it sounds so good, because it's like, oh, it gives you a chance to perform an extra turn, but then when you really stop and think about it, and then when you actually see how it ends up getting implemented in practice, if you try to focus in on Dueler, you're basically setting yourself up to fail. Because it's pretty hard to get up to the max Dueler 6 synergy, and a lot of the cards that will allow you to get there aren't really the strongest. Because there's only 2 cards. There's your Teufels, which are the horses from hunting. Yes, I think hunting. I don't know. They're a horse with 2 Dueler synergies. And then your Volmirs also have 2 Dueler synergies, but that's really it. And so you need to have at least one of those in order to be able to make it up to Dueler 6. And then every single other card is going to have a Dueler on it as well. And so there's just not a lot of ways to get up to like the max Dueler synergy that doesn't involve using cards that aren't exactly the best. And so if you try to stack up a lot of Dueler cards, they're just not that good when you put them all together. And even at the max Dueler 6, when you have 6 of them, you only have a 30% chance. Go back. You only have a 30% chance to perform an extra turn, and that's really not a lot. It's not a lot. It's so RNG based, and just that's 6 synergy slots, and like you put in a card specifically to get Dueler, and you put all your time and energy into this for a 30% chance to perform an extra turn. So if RNG hates you, congratulations, you just wasted your synergies. And you're getting like nothing for it. It's Dueler, it sounds so good, but it's really just, it's not very good in practice. If you like try to focus in on it, just, it's really not, it's unreliable at best. And you have to sacrifice so many other better options like Assailant or Primal or Healer or Tactician, which is the last one, which is the best. Objectively speaking and subjectively speaking, Tactician is amazing. And so there's so many synergies that other synergies that you generally have to sacrifice in order to focus in on Dueler. So just, I wouldn't recommend it. If you want to mess with it, sure, feel free, but I wouldn't recommend it personally. However, there are quite a few cards that have a Dueler synergy that otherwise have pretty good synergies and are pretty good cards and make really strong additions to your team. And so having Dueler 2, that 10% chance for an extra turn, just kind of naturally pop up in your synergy setup without focusing can indicate that you're on a good path, because there's quite a few cards, like the Torsine is one, that can be found in a lot of teams that are focusing in on Primal because it has 2 Primal synergies and a Dueler synergy. And then that one can be, and Primal's pretty good, and so that the Torsine makes a general component for quite a few Primal teams in the arena anyway, which is what we're covering. And then there's other cards that also have that Dueler synergy, and like the Stork, which has 2 Tactician synergies, and Tactician is really good, so the Stork and the Varani are really well loved for getting you up to max Tactician. And so say you have a Torsine and a Stork in your team because you're focusing in on Primal and Tactician, and you're going to end up with a Dueler synergy. And you weren't focusing on it, you just kind of naturally wound up with it. But those are pretty good cards, and so having Dueler just kind of naturally pop up, even if you're not focusing in on it, can be a pretty good indicator that you're on a pretty good path. Not all the time, but that's just an example of one instance where it's just like, yeah, you have a Dueler synergy, but it's worth it because you're not focusing in on it, you're not putting all your resources into getting those Dueler synergies, it just kind of naturally happened, and the cards that have it are just pretty good. And I mean, it's a 10% chance to perform an extra turn. If you just have that in addition to the other synergies that you're focusing on, that's not a bad thing at all to have. That's pretty good. It's just not something that is worth it to focus on. you know. But enough about that. On to Tactician, which will be the shortest to cover because it speaks for itself. I made another PowerPoint arguing why Tactician was the best thing a while ago, and I can share that later. But Tactician is very varied in what it does, and it's just really good. With one Tactician, you get that additional 5% dodge chance for your entire team, which is what I mentioned earlier when we were looking at the companions. When you have 3 Tactician synergies, all of your allies gain an additional 20% attack damage, which is, yes, that's the exact same thing that Assailant 4 does. So that's pretty good. And then at 5 Tactician synergies, which is Max Tactician, as I might refer to it, or Tac 5, as some people will call it, all of your allies gain an additional 50% critical chance. That's so good! That is just ridiculously strong, and it's so good. Max Tactician is so wonderful. Tactician speaks for itself. It's so varied and has so much variety in what it's doing. And, like, I have no complaints. This is so good. Tactician OP, no notes. Tactician is good. This is a Tactician household, I'm just gonna be honest. Max Tac good, no notes. Okay, and so those are your synergies. And one quick note before we move on, because now that kind of covers most of the general things for Lorwolf's combat system. And then moving on into the differences in what makes Arena unique, I want to point out real quick that there's a difference in the way that your party gets set up between normal combat parties and Arena. Because with your normal combat parties, you can only put in companions that are equipped to your wolves. So you can see here that Jolie is in the team, and so the Moorbear down here is able to be selected. But with Mira, who is not in the team, because she still has the select button, Mira is not in the team, so I cannot add the Vespin that is equipped to her unless I added Mira to the team too. So in your normal combat, which is your campaign and your gauntlet, you can only add companions that are equipped to your wolves, and you also have to have that wolf in the team first, so at maximum you can only include 2 companions in your team. However, that's not the way Arena works, because Arena just throws cards at you, and you may not even have any wolves, because it doesn't throw all the cards at you that are in the game. It picks a set few of them and lets you pick out from that little pool, and there may not even be any wolves in that pool, in which case, what's a wolf? It's all companions here. Oh, how I wish I could do this in the rest of the game. Arena just said, what's a wolf? I love it. And I so wish that I could do this in the gauntlet, because I would be unstoppable. Alas, that is not how it works. But yeah, so that's just something to know, is that you're not stuck with the companions that are equipped to your wolves in Arena, because that's just not how you get things in Arena. Arena is meant to be balanced for everyone. It's not dependent on what you, the player, has in any way. The game picks out a random pool of different wolves and companions, and sets them out, and then says, these are the cards that you have to play with, make a good team out of them. So it allows you access to everything in the game, except for Kickstarter Crane, I believe. I'm not sure why. I think there might be a reason. There might not be a reason. It might have just gotten looked over. I don't know. If someone knows, please let me know. I haven't paid that much attention to it, honestly. I kind of forgot about it. And I'm so used to Arena that for a while I low-key forgot the Kickstarter Crane existed. Because it's like, I don't see it in Arena, so it doesn't exist. But yeah, so that's the main difference to keep in mind between how you set up your campaign teams versus your Arena teams, because it's campaign/gauntlet, because they play by completely different rules in that regard. So this is really fuzzy, because I just took I had a bigger screenshot, and I didn't feel like opening a new game and taking a smaller one that was just of that specific area, so it's very fuzzy because I just enlarged the picture a lot and then zoomed in. But you'll see on your left side of the screen that there's the 10 different players and or bots in this case. There's me, that are playing in your match, and you all have a set number of hit points. And if any of you are familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh, think of it as being like life points, which is that you, the player, have a set amount of HP, and when that HP runs out, you drop out of the game, you're no longer allowed to play, you lose. But your HP isn't necessarily dependent on your card's HP. One of your cards can die, but you're fine. It's when all of your cards are defeated that you take damage. And the amount of health you lose is dependent on how severely your team gets beaten. Because I have noticed that if the enemy only has one card still standing when it defeats your team, you only take a small amount of damage. But if the enemy still has 5 cards standing when your team is beaten, if you didn't take out any of them, you'd lose like 30 health points because you failed badly. So yeah, it's dependent on, how badly you lose. But yeah, you start with 100 life points and health, whatever, and when you run out, you're out of the game. And you can keep track of how everyone in the match is doing by looking over here at the left. And so that's also something to mention real quick. I didn't make a slide for it, which is that Arena, you play against 9 other players, and if the game can't find enough players in the queue, like in this example, you'll be up against bots. And so it's a group of 10, and you basically all duke it out, free for all, until you have a winner. And so, moving on. Paws are the currency that are used in Arena. They are not used anywhere else. They only exist in Arena, and they refresh every time you start a new game. They are completely restricted to that individual game that you are playing, that individual match. You start out with a single paw right before the game starts, and you can use that to buy something from the shop. And then as time goes on, with each round that passes, you'll get 3 paws automatically. And then and you can see here that there is +0 interest in this little bar right here is from an example of one match that I was playing. But when you have 10 paws or more, you get when you have 10 to 19 paws sitting in your little bank here, you get +1 interest when that round ends, because you're storing them up, and so it gives you an incentive to keep hold of your paws for a while. Then when you get 20 to 29 paws sitting in your little bank here, you get +2 interest every turn. So no matter what happens, you're automatically getting the +3 paws for the round, and then the +2 paws for your interest if you have 20 to 29 paws sitting there with every turn. So that's automatically 5 paws minimum that you're going to be getting. And then when you have 30 or above, just goes straight out to infinity, you get +3 paws in interest with every round. If you win the match, not the match, if you win the round, you also get an additional paw for winning, as you can see here. And then you can see on both of these that that whether you win or lose, if you lose or win more than once in a row, you start building up a streak. The first time, so like say you lose one round and then you lose a second round after that, that is now you will get +1 paw for having a loss streak if you win another round. So now that's 3 rounds in a row. You get +2 paws for having a longer loss streak, and then if you lose 4 rounds in a row, you get +3 paws for a loss streak, and that's where it maxes out. It doesn't matter if you keep losing, you'll just get +3 paws for your streak. And the same thing goes for winning. If you win 2 in a row, you get an extra paw for the win streak. If you win 3 in a row, you get an extra 2 paws. And if you win 4 in a row, you get an extra 3 paws, and it just continues going like that. So at absolute maximum, you can get up to 10 paws a round if you have over 30 to begin with, so you have your +3 interest, natural 3 from just the round ending, +1 from winning, and then a +3 from win streak. You can get up to 10 paws around, so at absolute max. And then at absolute minimum, you can get just the +3. If you are below 10 and then you lose and you had been winning, so your streak gets broken, you'll still get +3 no matter what. And so that resets with every match. Like I said, it is entirely limited to the match that you are playing. You cannot earn more paws outside of Arena. It is entirely limited to Arena and to that specific match that you are playing. That's one of the things that I really like about Arena is that unlike a lot of other games, the PvP, it starts out flat for everyone. There is no advantage that anyone can get other than knowledge and being more familiar with things, and then just, RNG, really. But It's not dependent on what things you have access to in the rest of the game. You can have just started up the game, have your 2 wolves and nothing else, and you can play Arena and you'll have access to everything that's in Arena. Just like everyone else, you'll have access to all the companions and all the different wolf breeds, and doesn't matter what you have in the rest of the game. Arena starts out even and flat for everyone. The only thing that makes a difference is RNG, which does affect things a lot of the time, and just your experience and, your knowledge and familiarity with it. Otherwise, it starts out, it's completely flat for everyone every match, and that's one of the things that I really like about it. Because that feels like one of the most fair ways that you could make a PvP system. And so that's something that I'm very fond of with Arena. And now the shop that I mentioned. Oh, we play at the whims of RNG. Prayers be, or hate, whatever you prefer. Damnation be upon thee! But your shop is a set of 4 cards that you have access to and you can buy, and each one costs 1 paw. And so it's just 4 cards that are randomly generated from whatever pool the arena has picked out for you this match. And then you can refresh it in order to get new cards to show up. And every round, when it ends, you will be given a free refresh that you can use to refresh it without having to spend anything. Other than that, you can continue to refresh it if you like, but it will cost 2 paws every time you refresh it. So that is something to keep in mind, is that you can continue to refresh it, but it will cost money. And one thing that is very important to point out is, I'm not sure if it's a bug or not, I think it is, but that if you start a match and it hasn't ended yet, you and your team and the enemy's team are still fighting, if you hit refresh before it ends, you will not get the free refresh that you get at the end. And I think as far as I can tell, I think it's because the game registers that a new round started and you hit refresh. So it's already had a refresh, so the shop has already been refreshed. So since your free refresh is the first one, it's like, well, you already refreshed, so no free refresh. I think it's a bug. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know why it wouldn't be. But yeah, so that's something to keep in mind, is that if the match has already started, make sure that you and the enemy's team have stopped fighting before you hit refresh, or you will not get your free refresh for that round, which is very annoying. But it is what it is. And then when you buy your cards, you have this little inventory space of your hand, so to speak, of 10 different things that you can put in here. And so you can have up to 10 things here at a time. And then you have your team. I'm going to get more water. I think I need it. Oh, how time flies. It's already been an hour. I'm so good at listening to the sound of my own voice. But yeah, so then you have your team. And you can see here that these 2 are unlocked in this screenshot, and these 3 have a little lock symbol on them, which means that I do not have access to those slots. I accidentally hit the scroll wheel. I do not have access to those slots, so my team is only going to have a maximum of 2 slots available at this given point. And the way you get more slots is that... No, other way. There we go. As the game goes on, you have your level here, which you get 1 XP whenever the round ends, and that just builds up naturally. It's just a continuous progression. And when you go to the next level, you get an additional slot unlocked. So you start out at level 1, and you only have 1 slot. Then when you hit level 2, you get 2 slots. And then right here it says level 4, so I would have these 4 slots unlocked in that instance, and then it's at 3 out of 4 XP, so when the next round ended, I would get 5. I would max out to level 5, which is the maximum because there's 5 slots, and all 5 slots would be unlocked. So you start out with only 1 available slot, and then as the game progresses throughout the rounds, you will unlock more slots just naturally. There's nothing you can do to speed it up, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. It's just going to continue to progress, and you will unlock more slots as the game goes on. And then stars are the level, so to speak, that you have in Arena. You can see that when you buy things from the shop, they only have 1 star. But you can see here in my team example down here that some of these have 2 stars and some have 3 stars. The way that works is that when you buy 3 copies of the same thing, they automatically combine into a 2 star. So if I had 3 of these geckos, Or, well, if I had 2 of them and then I bought a third one, they would all automatically combine into a 2-star gecko, which is stronger. And then if I bought another 3, they would combine into another 2-star gecko. And then if I bought another 3, they would go to combine into a 2-star gecko, and then and so then in that point I would have 3 2-stars, and then they'd all automatically combine to a 3-star. And so 3 stars where it maxes out, that is your strongest. It does not go past that. I have tried. as have other people. It's very hard to, but we have made it work, and we have gotten to try, and unfortunately 3-star is where it stops. So that's a total of 9 copies of the same card to get up to your max level. So there's 3 different levels that they can be at. And, it just bumps up their stats and it makes them stronger, and it gives them more health, more attack, more defense, etc., etc. I don't know what it correlates to, like what kind of level equivalent it would correlate to in the rest of the game, but that's sort of the leveling system that is at play in Arena, and that's how you level up your cards, is by buying multiple copies of them. And one thing that is unfortunate is that you cannot stop them from combining. It doesn't matter if you don't want them to combine. Like say I had both of these cats here, these Lunarias were 2 stars, and then I had 2 1-stars. So all I would need is 1 more copy of it in order to combine it up to a 3-star. But I wanted to keep 2 copies of the Lunaria at play. Unfortunately, I could not, there is not a way to stop it from combining. The moment I buy that last Lunaria, they will automatically combine to a 3-star, and I'll have to get more Lunarias out of the shop in order to fill up that slot that I had previously had filled, if I want to put another Lunaria there. There is unfortunately not a way to stop them from combining, which sucks, but it is what it is. And that's one thing that sometimes I'll wait as long as I can to get to kind of build up a little inventory of some more paws, so that way I can spam through a few refreshes in order to try and get some more. In order to hopefully be able to pull another card of that same one in order to pop it in, because usually the reason I'm using duplicates is because I want the synergies that they have. So next are your rounds. I didn't already have screenshots for this, and I got impatient, so you get text. Same rules as with any other part of the combat system, which is that you can refresh the round and it will automatically finish because it's an auto battler, so the results of the round are automatically calculated from the moment it loads in. So if you just refresh, it automatically skips to the end of the round, and now you have the rest of your window in order to continue, in order to plan or strategize or shop or, reorganize your team or whatever you want to do. And that's another thing, is that each round is 60 seconds long. And so if you don't really care to watch them auto battle because it will tell you the results at the end, if you don't really care to watch them fight, sometimes I watch them fight because I want to see what's going on and how are they getting beaten, or how are they beating, what's happening, what do I might need to reorganize. But a lot of the time I don't want to watch it. I don't need to watch it. I'll just refresh it and just skip past the animation, so that way I have the rest of the round in order to figure out what I want to continue doing for the game. And so you can just refresh it. It will show you who won, what damage was done, give you your pause, and you can keep going. When there's only 15 seconds remaining in the round, it will automatically stop, as if you had refreshed it, and give you those remaining 15 seconds in order to figure out what you want to do next. So even if you forget to refresh, it will automatically stop it at 15 seconds for you, so that way you can figure out what you want to do. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I wish there was a better word for it, but they're both called rounds, unfortunately. Because there's your whole arena match that you're playing, and then there's the individual rounds that go by, and then I guess it's turns, but then there's the in-game round, in that specific battle, the rounds of you and your enemy, your guys take a turn and the enemy guys take a turn. That's all one round inside the round. Of the arena match. And so when 20 of those go by, of your team attack and your enemy's team both hitting each other once, if that goes on for 20 rounds or more, it will stall out and both of you will lose 5 HP. Which sucks, but again, I do understand why. It's in order to reduce server load, and I get it, and I can see how it is important, and it could very easily become extremely taxing if you had really beefy teams, really tanky teams that just refused to die, and how that could become taxing on the server. It's still frustrating. But yeah, so that's just something to keep in mind, that it will stall out at 20 in game rounds, in fight rounds, however you want to call it. It will stall out, and so that's something to. And you will both lose 5 HP, so that's something to keep in mind. Bosses, I don't have screenshots for this either. It's just something to know, I guess, that at round 10 you will be up against 3 Kolpaks. At round 15 you will be up against 3 Boviuses, and at round 20 you will be up against 3 Cancitonuses, which are the Kolpaks are the kitty cats. I actually have some of them here. That's a Kolpak. They have pack mentality, so they will be boosting each other's attack. They also have assailant and tactician, so they will be getting some attack bonuses. And they're pretty good attackers. Their special is Rend, which causes you to your team to, or well, whoever's hit to bleed. I think it attacks the entirety of the front row. Bovius, I don't have any examples of them. They're mostly good at stunning you. They're tanks that stun, basically. And then Cancitonus is the Stabby Swan, which is all poison, all the time, always. And so that's just something to know, really, is that you're going to be up against those. They're just going to be automatic. They're just NPCs that you're just going to naturally encounter. And that's just something to, just be aware of. I mean, you'll see them anytime you play a match, so you'll learn about them real quick, but just something to keep in mind that they're there. Good luck. I don't know. There's not really much to say about them. They're just kind of there. And then last thing I wanted to point out is the prizes that you get for completing the match. And then, yes, originally when launch first went out, anyone who participated would automatically get an arena voucher, and then they patched it to where 9th and 10th place do not get vouchers, and I'm upset about it too, even though it doesn't even affect me 99% of the time, because it's unfair to people who are learning, because it almost punishes them and says you just wasted your time and you get nothing for it, especially in which when arena matches can take like 20 to 30 minutes, that's really unfair feeling, and it punishes people who are still at the beginning of the learning curve, and I'm upset about it, and I don't like it, and I wish they would change it. And it's like, I get why they did it, and I do agree that they needed to address the situation, because what was happening was people were just hopping in the game and then just not playing, and so they were basically just AFK the whole time because they were guaranteed to get a ticket, and so people were just AFK farming the whole time. And sometimes you could see 3 or 4 people just farming in a match, and they wouldn't play at all, and there'd be absolutely nothing going on, and it's just like, that's not fun. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I did it too a couple of times, but at the same time, I also, because it was, especially nice when I was like at work, I would just pop myself in and then keep working because I'm at my job and I have to go do things and I can't sit here and play arena, unfortunately. And so it's like, I get it, I did it a couple times too, but I also like playing arena. And I would play outside of that. I just did that when I wasn't able to play. I wasn't just always AFK farming. I played outside of that. And so I do agree that, I took advantage of the loophole because it was there and I was taking advantage of the loophole. But I do also acknowledge and fully agree that it needed to be fixed, because when you're trying to play the game and there's 4 people who in the match who aren't even doing anything, that's not fun. That's not, you don't get to play the game that way. And I've seen some people saying, well, like, I know some people didn't like it, but does it really matter? Yeah, it does actually, because the whole point is that you want to play the game. And then when half the people in the game are not even playing, that's not fun. That ruins the game for everyone else. And again, I'm saying this also as a person who did it sometimes. I still acknowledge that it wasn't really the best thing to do, and that it made things unfun for people. It made things unfun for me when I actually was playing, outside of those few times where I was AFK farming. So it's like, and it was getting pretty bad. Like I said, you could sometimes find 3 or 4 people in a single match just not even playing, and that's just not fun. And it was getting pretty bad, and so like, this strategy did fix it, because now you can't hop in and not play, or you don't get anything out of it, so why bother? And it did fix it. I can tell you that most of the time, if you see someone in the game, they're going to be playing. But, or nowadays, they'll be playing. But at the same time, it's like it did work, but it also really punishes people who aren't as good at the game. And I don't like that. And I wish they could figure out, or implement, a different way to handle the situation, like something that monitors activity or something and boots you or denies you prizes if you don't interact with the game. Though I know that that would be a lot more coding work than just canceling prizes for 9th and 10th place, and so it's like, I get why they did it, but I still don't and it did fix the problem, and the problem did need to be fixed, but I still don't really like it. And hey, look, here's an example of when I came in 10th place. Recently, this was a couple weeks ago, I think, and I was trying. I just didn't do very good. I didn't have many good thinkings at that point. My ideas weren't that great in that round, so I just didn't do so well, and I came in 10th place, and so I got hit with the no voucher. And I was playing. And so it's like, sometimes RNG hates you, and you don't do so well, or you're just being stupid. You just don't make a very good team, and I know what I'm doing, and I still lost, and I still got hit with the no voucher thing, and so it's just like, yeah, it's just, there needs to be a better fix for it. But yeah, anyway, that's it. That's all I can think of for right now. I'm gonna look at chat after this. Sorry, I know you guys have just been on your own for an hour. Well, I've just been the whole time, but yeah, that's all I can think of. I'll see if there's any questions anyone has. And I made a thread a while ago, like back when the arena patch first went out, to cut out tickets for 9th and 10th place, saying that, hey, can we maybe fix this? This isn't very good. It very much punishes new players. And if any of y'all who haven't posted in that thread would like to, I would really appreciate it, because, the more people who comment, the more likely we are to hopefully get some attention. And I'll post a link to it in the Discord, and also share the slideshow there probably after the stream is over. And then once the stream ends, I'll export this to YouTube as well, and I'll pop, so that way you guys can go back and rewatch, and I'll also put links to both of those things there on YouTube as well. So yeah, that's the presentation. That was, yeah, okay, let's see what's going on. Hello. There was a noise. Why is the noise? Oh, fire. Yeah, spit does psychological damage. That's the extra damage. Yeah, sorry about the infinite loop that's now occurring. But yeah. Yeah, that's why spit does damage. The extra 50%. It's the psychological impact. I fully believe that. Yeah, so patience, I think it's the aurochs, which is the big cow, and then the folium, which is the, praying mantis thing. Let's pull them up. I don't know if there's any others that have them, but I'm pretty sure, but I know those two have them. I don't have an aurochs, I think, but you can see your foliums here, which are these guys. They have patience as their auto attack, which is, instead of attacking, wait and do nothing. Thanks. That's real helpful. Great. And then there's also the aurochs, which is the big cow that you can get from the farming event. I do not have one. This guy. He also has patience. I'll admit, I've actually used the aurochs a couple times, because it has a tactician synergy, and has massive as the passive, and is basically, it's a decent me shield. The aurochs is a decent meat shield, and has a tactician's energy, so I've included it sometimes in whenever I'm trying to go for a tactician 5 layout, and there's no, and the Varani or the Stork aren't in the pool that match, because in that case, those are the only two cards that have double Tactician. So if you don't have either of those, every card that you play has to have a Tactician synergy in order to get max Tactician. So I've admittedly used an Aurochs sometimes and just popped him in the front line to just be a good meat shield and give me that Tactician synergy. But yeah, I think Aurochs and Foliums are the only ones with Patience. I can't think of any others. I think that's it. But yeah, it's just kind of like, ugh. And yeah, now I'm going to force you all to watch the infinite loop as it loads. But yeah, I'm gonna start up a match. I'll give this a name, I guess. Yeah, there we go. And then close that out, and I'll pop that in Discord afterwards. And yeah, I'll wait like 30 seconds or whatever, and then join the queue, and I'll say that I'm joining the queue in the Discord, because I know that there's some kind of, delay. So that way, if anyone wants to join in, you can. If you don't, that's whatever. It's fine either way. If you just want to watch me handle bots, that's cool, and just listen. And if you don't, or whatever, you know what I mean. If you want to play, you can. English is failing me. I've been talking for over an hour. I talk a lot. Not usually for this long in a row. Okay. Hello. And yeah. And so yeah, I'm sure all of you have at least observed the arena screen before, but you can see that you can apply skins to the different wolves that you'll encounter with wolves that you actually have. So you can, air quote, use your own wolves in the match, which is fun. And then yeah, it will look for players, and it varies how much time it takes sometimes. And if we get... And yeah, it'll start up with bots filling in the extra spaces for the lack of players that they're... Because I'm sure we won't have 10 if anyone joins in. And yeah, now we're just kind of waiting. It'll flick over to say in progress. Yeah, okay, no one's talking. Just wanted to make sure. I think I got everything. But, oh, yeah, never seen the alt colors of things. Yeah, each one has 2 different colors, and it just started while I was talking. But, yeah, each one has 2 different recolors. Or, well, there's 2 different colors for it. The one and then a recolor. You know what I mean? All by myself. But yeah, round 0 is, I think it gives you 30 seconds, and you can just pick out what you want. And I'm going to wait for it to flick over, just because I'd rather have the 60 seconds. And then what I personally do, which is not... How did you lose 5 health? You only lose 1 if you don't do anything. What did this bot do? But yeah, something that I personally do, which is not saying like, oh, this is the meta, but like it's what I personally do, is that I'll kind of just not put anything in my team for the first couple of rounds, and just let myself build up a loss streak, and just let myself build up, so that way I can get to the point where I'm gaining interest and just build up a stockpile of paws, and then start putting in cards after that. And then I'm gonna grab these 2 guys, because they're both decent, and use my free refresh before it runs out. Ooh. That definitely changes that. Goodbye. Yeah, it definitely looks like I have enough cards here that have Tactician synergies that I'll be able to do a Tactician 5 team, which is my personal favorite, because Tactician is my favorite synergy. So I'm going to grab all of these guys, because obviously this doesn't show me the whole pool. This is just, a piece of it. Yep, as we can see there. And now I can start figuring out what I want. Let's see. I definitely want the Firmus because the Firmus has Intersect as its special, which basically just means it intercepts. Intersect is really strong. Your kits also have it, and some other ones like the Lapistrix, and it basically just means that it blocks an attack on an ally, and then it dodges that attack. So no one gets hit by the attack, and then it counterattacks against the enemy that just attacked with a 100% chance to crit that enemy. So Intersect is really strong, so the Firmus is really good. And I'm going to get both of these guys, the Kolpak and the Makako, I think, because they both have double Assailant, so they will be able to bump me up to Assailant 4, and they also both have Pack Mentality, which is what I was commenting on earlier, that a lot of cards that have that double Assailant also have Pack Mentality. So by having them together, they'll be able to give each other that additional attack boost. Grabbing him because he has... Okay, and I am now yeeting him because he's not my favorite. I might end up with him later. But Kit, this is Sandia. You saw her earlier. But like I said, kits also have Intersect, so I really like kits. So because kits have Intersect, it's good. So I'm also going to grab her. I'm going to grab this guy to start building up that one. I'm not a big fan of the Capybara dudes. I can't remember their name. Because they have Berserk as their special, so it's kind of like, it's not as bad as Noble Inspiration, but I'm not a big fan of it. But he's okay. And I'll keep him around in case I need it. I'll just keep this one for the moment. I'll probably end up throwing it away later, but just in case I need a meat shield. I also grabbed this Firebird guy whose name I can't remember, because I enjoy the special of Flurry that he has, which is basically just 3 attacks back to back. You'll find quite a few of your Assailant cards will also have that. You'll see like your Grimalkin and your Ekakara, which are 2 of the cat cards, which I'll see if they show up in this, and then I'll pull them up in a companions page later. But they also have Flurry. You can run into the Ekakara and Gold Sea, and they'll usually... you can run into them in the second sword, which is Elias's Watch, or the 3rd location overall. You'll run into Ekakaras, and they basically just attack you 3 times in a row, bang, 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 whenever they hit their special. Let's see. Yeah, okay, I think it's time for you to go. Grabbing these guys, and... the reason I got him is because he's a decent healer, and also helps with support, in that he gets double energy anytime he attacks, and he has Siphoning Scratch, which I covered earlier, which would heal other cards on the team, and he also gives Motivate with his special, which gives them all energy, and since I have 2 cards that have Intersect, that would be pretty good to have, to be constantly buffing that up, but I haven't seen any double Tactician cards, and also because if I were to put him in the team with the Firmus, that would get me a Healer 3 synergy, which would be really nice, but I haven't seen any double Tactician cards, and I really prefer Tactician over that little bonus, so I'm keeping him for a second, just in case, but I'm probably going to end up having to toss him, because I haven't seen any double Tactician cards in this pool, so if I were to use him, I wouldn't be able to get that max Tactician, which gives me an extra 50% crit chance, which is really good, and so he'd be nice to have, but if I only have cards with a single Tactician synergy, it's just not worth it. But yeah, so currently my thinking is using these 2 guys to get me Assailant and that Pack Mentality buff so they can both beef each other up a little bit. Kit and Firmus for their intersects. He's good. I would love it if I could double up on the Firmus or the Kit, because then I would also get a Protector 4 synergy to get some extra health. But as things stand, I may not be able to do that. I may just have to take the Assailant and the Tactician paired together and work with that. And this is the point where I start putting things in my team personally. And I'm going to put... I'll put these 2 guys in the front row for right now. And I'll put him in the back and you. Because your ones in the front row are going to be getting hit more often. And I really like this guy, the Colpax special, which is Rend, which, makes all frontline targets bleed for 100% damage over 2 turns. It's a really good damage over time effect and does a whole lot of damage. So I'm going to keep him in the back row because I want to protect him a bit more. And I'll put these guys in the front row because I don't care about them as much. No offense. And the Firmus I'll also keep in the back row because although he's stronger right now, these guys will level up soon. And I'm not particularly concerned about my health. I'm doing fine. And I'd rather keep the guy with Intersect in the back row. And the reason I'm not buying the one here right now until the next turn is because I have exactly 30 paws. So I'm waiting for it to roll over. And then they're starting to fight, but I don't care to watch. So I'm just going to refresh. And I'm still losing, but I'm losing less because they're staying alive for a bit longer, presumably taking out some of the enemy a bit more. And so that results in me losing less HP. And I'm not particularly concerned about it yet. So now I can get him and use my free refresh. Oh, and get another one. Get these Colpax. And then now I'm going to refresh, see if there's anything. There's not. Refresh again. Oh, I can get him. And then I'm going to stop for right now. And again, this is just what I do. This is just how I like to play it. This is not necessarily the meta. This is just, it's a strategy, not the strategy. And then I'm going to leave it here for right now in that I'm not going to let myself drop below 30 paws in order to make sure I have a lot of paws as things continue to go on. Because what I'm eventually going to do is get to a point where I'm going to refresh at the beginning of the match. Just do that, just skip it. Yeah, I took a pretty big hit, but it's okay. And I'm just going to go on a splurge and just spend all of them. And just get as much of the stuff for my team as I can. And I'm going to stop right there and not hit that refresh button. Because otherwise I would drop to 29 because each refresh costs 2 paws. And so now I'm just kind of waiting here. Oh well, actually. I think I'm going to give up on him because I think I've gotten enough refreshes in that it's pretty clear to see there's not really any doubles. Double Tactician, there's no Varani and no Stork. If one shows up, I will be eating my words, I guess. But for right now, it doesn't look like there is. So I'm just going to take it and sell that guy and stick with this as my team. And yeah, and that's one thing. And that's definitely something that also helps, is to try and commit to your team as early as possible. You can, of course, fix things up later. I have done that. It does happen. Oh, here's the Colpax. They're both 2 stars, and they're hitting me, but I'ma live. Refreshing. Oh, there we go. That'll definitely help. Gotten him up to 2-star now. That will be of assistance. And yeah, that's pretty good. So once the next round goes over, I'll refresh again, and I'll be able to put Kit in the back row. And then I'll honestly probably do my big splurge and just start spending everything in order to see what I can get and get everyone beefed up as much as possible. And sometimes RNG just hates you, and I'll go through the whole splurge of 30 plus paws and get back practically nothing. So it is also RNG dependent. It just depends on whether or not Shop loves you sometimes. Because sometimes you can have a wonderful team set up, know exactly what you're doing, and Shop just hates you. Refresh. And I won that match, see? Now that I've gotten... I needed to get him a bit leveled up because he was taking damage. But then even though I broke my streak, you can still see that I still got 7 paws that round. Because even though I broke my streak, by keeping it above 30, I'm still getting extra 3 paws from interest. So even though I broke the loss streak, I still got a pretty big payout at the end. Refresh and just gonna build up the team now. That's most of what there is to it, and I'm gonna go ahead and splurge. See what I can get. See if I can get these guys filled up. And as you can see them auto-combining. And like I said, there is unfortunately not a way to stop it. It just is going to happen. Oh, that's nice. Since I'm thinking about trying to replace him with a Kit or a Firmus, and I now have a Kit. Ooh. Oh. Oh, okay, good. I thought I might have hit refresh at one point there before it ticked over because I wasn't paying attention to the time. But I didn't, so that's great. Okay, yeah, I'm getting a lot of kits, so that's probably enough to get... I'll definitely be able to get a second 2-star kit at least, so... Yep, there we go. Now I have 2 stars. And now by trading out that Firebird, I now have a Protector synergy as well, so everyone has a bit of a health boost. And they're still coming. We love to see it. And yeah. Okay, I'm just getting kits left and right. But yeah, so that's the team comp I'm going to go with for this match. I've pretty much settled on it, and especially since I'm up against all bots, I don't really have any doubts about the fact that I'll win. And sure, let's go ahead and watch this one, just to watch them duke it out. But yeah, they all currently have extra 5% dodge, an extra 20% attack from the Tactician 3, an extra 50% critical chance from Tactician 5, and then another 20% attack bonus from Assailant 4, and then a 20% health bonus from Protector 4. And so you saw just how much damage they inflicted. So this is the team comp I'm going to go with. This is a pretty good pool. Got plenty of options for Tactician. And now everyone's at 3 stars except for my double kit. Sometimes you're not really... You can think, oh, I want to double up, but if shop doesn't love you enough and doesn't give you enough cards, you can't double up because it's not giving you enough. And like I said, you can't stop it from auto-combining, so it's just gonna keep going. And sure, let's go ahead and watch them. Because normally what I'd be doing is I'd refresh whenever the round flipped over, and then I'd be multitasking, like playing Gauntlet, or in the campaign, or on my phone, or whatever. But, yeah. Honestly, there's not even much of a point, because they're just killing them so fast. Because it's all bots, they're not really that smart. They can get you sometimes. Don't take that as oh, bots are never able to beat you. Oh, they can. But most of the time... I guess the main thing to say about bots is that they don't really change what they're doing. Once they have a team comp, they kind of don't change it even if they're losing. Meanwhile, if you're up against other players, you know, it's another human being. When you notice you're not doing well and your team is losing, you're going to try to fix it and fiddle around with it and make new things. And as far as I've noticed, bots just kind of accept it. Bots are just like, well, I have a team comp, I'm just going to deal with it. This is what we're doing. And the Bovius boss here has a question mark, doesn't show you how strong it is, but as you can see, my guys are all so strong by now, because this was a really good pool. My RNG was really good here, and I managed to get everything really fast and get everyone leveled up really quickly, to the point where this is basically a joke. They just killed him. No, didn't matter. Yeah, this RNG was, like, perfect. This was like a perfect, easy match. Nothing really to comment on. Honestly, we've covered it. I guess we can look at what their movesets are. Kits have abnormal speed, which means they have an extra 20% chance to dodge on top of their base, which I believe, yeah, we looked at, that's 10. And then they have the 5 from the Tactician, so they have like a base 30% dodge, which is pretty good. It means it's pretty hard to hit them. They have just a general 100% damage, just a normal attack for their auto, and then Intersect, which I covered earlier. Very good special, very lovely. We love it. S tier. The Macaco here, you can see, has the pack mentality, which only really offers a bonus to his Cult Pack friend over here, and the Cult Pack only really offers a bonus to him, but they are giving each other an extra 10% attack bonus, which, you know, it helps. Every bit helps. Even when in this case, it's not really necessary. Yeah, and you just saw me go through multiple refreshes there with no kits, so, you know, sometimes it just doesn't give you stuff. And then has the same auto attack, just a general, does normal damage. And then has Jaw Snap, which does 200% damage, and to my knowledge, that's what a crit is. I think crit is 200. Don't quote me on that, though. But it just basically just does a special, which does double normal damage. Double its normal damage. The Firmus has the same auto attack, quick attack, it's just a general attack. And then Intersect, like I covered earlier. And then for its passive, it has Prepared, which means it starts each in-game round, because you can... or well, it starts each of these rounds, because you can see what I mean now, of just like, there's this round, and then there's the rounds of them going back and forth. And so each time it flips over to one of these new rounds, it starts with a shield equal to 20% of its max health, which is basically just extra HP. I mean, you guys, I'm pretty sure, understand how shields work and stuff like that. And then pack mentality, we already covered that. Has bite for its auto attack, which is basically just the same thing as all of these guys' auto attacks. It just has a different name to, spice things up a bit. And then rip, which we already talked about, which is its special. It does an attack to all frontline enemies and makes them bleed for 100% damage for over 2 turns. And then if all of these guys were wiped out, it would attack all of the backline back here, because they would become the new frontline, so to speak. And you can see here that, since I can just kind of fiddle with things now, that the way these guys are set out correlates to the order that they show up on the screen. And it starts at this position here, goes down to here, and then goes up to the back, and goes down the back line that way. So it starts at the top of the front row, goes down, then goes to the top of the back row, and goes down from there, going left to right. And, oh yeah, there's one. After 14 pause, 8 refreshes, because I also had my free one. 8 refreshes and I got a single kit. Sometimes RNG is just like that. But yeah, so these 2 are the front row slots, as you can see here, and these 3 are your back row slots. And so, like I said, I put these 2 in the front row, because originally this was the Firebird. Him, because he's good, but I don't care about him as much as I do the others. So he's up in the front row to be partial meat shield, and then I put her up in the front row because originally it was the bird, and I didn't care about the bird much either. And then I put him in the back row in order to keep the intersect special protected, because he has a pretty good special, also has a good special, and also is a good damage dealer, so I want to keep him alive. And then since this is a double, I just had to decide, and so I put the one that has more HP due to being a higher level up in the front to protect her. Why did I hit refresh? Oh well, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to win. It's just still frustrating. But yeah, you can see that I'm just, it's bots. I have a great team comp. Yeah, I can't really think of much else to talk about. Oh, here's our Cancitonis boss. Question marks, not going to show you how strong it is, but doesn't matter. Oh, and there's the shield that you can see there, that little symbol there, and then you can see his shield right there. And the poison is dealing damage to his actual health, but if he were to get hit by the enemy, that would affect his shield. The poison is going to affect his actual health though, but the shield will absorb hits from the actual blows dealt. And there is a passive called Piercer, which your Brockus has, and some others, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know the Brockus has it, and it basically ignores shields, so it's similar to that poison debuff, and that how the poison debuff is ignoring the shield and sapping directly away at the health. Piercer ignores shields and just saps directly from the health itself. I'm just going to refresh. Grab her. Oh, yay. I don't need it. I'm going to win, but it makes me happy to see a full team, to have them all at 3 stars. And then I refreshed because I want to see my shop full, even though I'm not going to buy anything. It makes me feel nice inside to see everything nice and full. But yeah, so this should end in a few minutes. And yeah. And one thing I'll be able to point out when we get to the last round is that you can see that it has the timer here counting down how long each round is going to take, and counting down how much time is left. And like I said, the results are automatically calculated whenever the round loads in because it's an auto battler. And you'll notice that when we get to the very last round of the game, it's not going to have the countdown timer. It's just going to have this, it's just going to say starting. It's going to be stuck in kind of like a air quote loading, so to speak, because it already knows that the game is over. So there is no countdown timer because there's no new round to load. So you'll be able to tell when you're on your very last round because it will show starting here and the countdown timer will be gone. And yeah, and sometimes when it gets down to stuff like this, it might have, you and a bot, and then bot and a ghost, which is basically just it's fighting me, but it's not actually able to damage me. Like, my health isn't going to be affected, even if it were to win, which it clearly did not, because it just got knocked out. But even if it had won that match against my air quote ghost, I wouldn't have been affected. Because my health is only being affected by the match that I'm in up against Desmond bot, and so Carly bot's health could be affected in that match, but me personally, I could not. And that's just what it does to, keep it running. And yeah, you can see here, this is the final round because I'm obviously going to win against Desmond bot. And it just says starting down here at the bottom. And if I were to refresh now, it would just take me back to that front screen so I could join in the queue. And I wouldn't see the prizes, but I'd be able to tell because I know how many tickets I had. But I waited for the prize screen to show up, and there we are. Game over. And then you can hit leave game, you can refresh, I'll just refresh. And it takes me back here. And I earned 2,000 pebbles from being in first place, which is not a lot, but hey, it is what it is, and especially since I really love Arena, so I'm constantly playing, it's nice to have, because it's like, yay, I can technically justify it to myself. And I had 115 vouchers, now I have 120, and I would have been able to tell you that, and know that I had won, even if I had won the match, even if it hadn't already been obvious, because I would have known that it had gone up by 5. But yeah, so if you refresh on that last round, you won't see the screen. But I mean, if you know what you had before you went in, you can tell how you came out, So I feel okay, so I think I'll go ahead and do another match, just to see what new things come up. Because that was an example of like a good example of like a really easy match, in my opinion, because again, Tactician is really powerful. But there wasn't a whole lot of strategizing involved because Tactician is so strong that it was just kind of like, oh, I see Tactician, slap, slap, slap. I didn't really have to think. So, might see if, we can find something else. Yeah, I'll type up joining again and wait a short time. And when it goes up in Discord, that's when I'm actually clicking. I don't even know what half these servers in my sidebar are anymore. Like, there is just so much going on over here. I just join things, and some of these are ancient, and I'm just like, no, I'm just not leaving. I'm used to them being there. That's the order my sidebar is supposed to be in. I think I counted it once, and it's like somewhere over 50. It always weirds me out when one of the... Oh, wow, that was fast. Well, don't know why I even bothered. Ooh, Volpactias. I like Volpactias. They have hyped, so they attack twice. They're one of my favorites because of it. And also because I could never remember their name. And so it would always be like Volpactia, Volpacita. Despacito, this is how we do it in Puerto Rico. So every time I see them, my brain automatically starts playing Despacito. So that's a thing. Refresh. Yeah, this is not looking like it's going to be as obviously, oh, go max tack like last time. Gonna take these guys, because these guys are pretty decent. This guy has pack mentality, and so is one of those ones. Charge through enemies, dealing 50% damage to one frontline and one backline enemy. Pretty good. Special is Impaling Charge. Charge through enemies, stunning them for 1 turn and dealing 200% damage to one frontline and one backline enemy. Nice. So, he's a pack mentality guy. So we'll see if any more pack mentality things show up in the shop, in which case might lean towards him in the meantime. What I'm going to go with exactly is up for debate, but that's one of the reasons why I don't... That's one of the nice things about my personal way of just, like, not really putting anything in for a couple rounds, is that it just kind of gives me room to think, and I don't feel stressed out because, like, oh, it's in my team, it's not. Gecko, good. We like Gecko. Gecko also has hyped. Gecko, big. Gecko, nice and strong. Quick attack, normal auto attack, and then Grudge. I didn't like Grudge at first because I felt like I didn't trust it, but it's actually quite good, actually. Because it's reliant on your card getting attacked, because it attacks back to the last ones that attacked you. So it's reliant on your guy getting hit, so you want to make sure that they don't die. And it felt really sketchy when I first saw it because it relies on you being hit in order for you to even do any damage, but it's actually pretty good. Gecko is really strong. Gecko is a really loved companion because of the hyped, so the double attack and then dealing good damage, and Grudge can be pretty strong when you actually get hit a lot. Yeah, more of the same. Volpactia has the hyped, which I like, has quick attack as well, so just normal attack. And then Paralyzing Poison for a special, which stuns the target for 2 turns and causes them to bleed for 200% damage over 2 turns, and it ignores shields. So it does pretty good hit and then does damage over time as well. So Paralyzing Poison is quite good, and since Volpactia has hyped, it attacks twice, and so it generates energy with both of those attacks, so it gets up to its special pretty quick. The Brockus I mentioned earlier has Piercer, so its attacks ignore shields. That's not super relevant unless you're up against an enemy that has shields, which I don't know if these guys are going to be like that, but, we'll see. Siphoning Scratch, we covered earlier, it's the healing auto attack where it does damage and then heals for whatever it did as well. So the Brockus is here because, it's good to have a nice healer. Death Pounce, you deal 400% damage. It's quite nice. It's like the double edition of Jaw Snap that we looked at with the Makako. Ooh, yay, I like him. He has pack mentality too. And 3 Assailant synergies. Yummy, yummy. And this guy, and Pounce, you can see here, that's another just 100% damage auto attack. They just name them different things. Spice it up. And you can see here Flurry, like I mentioned, that was with the Firebird guy, attacks 3 times in a row. It's quite nice. And the Simber is a mixture of tank and healing. Hard-Headed is a passive that you can find on the Simber and the Monster Pod. I don't know if it's on any others. I don't think so. But Hard-Headed is nice if you're able to get it in, because it basically just means that any enemy that attacks that card has a 50% chance to become stunned. So it can definitely basically just freeze up anyone who attacks it, which is quite nice. Okay, and then, and it has Festive Feels as the special, which, it's not that great, but I mean, I guess it's a bit of a heal. It's whatever. It helps. And then Protection Thwack is, it's like it says, it attacks the target, and then for 50% of the damage done, it gives a shield to an ally. So it's kind of akin to Siphoning Scratch in that, it sort of gives health in a way, but it gives this health as a shield instead, and it only gets 50%, whereas Siphoning Scratch gives 100. But I think Simber might also be stronger. I have no idea. I'm not going to say things that I don't know about. It probably doesn't really matter all that much. Like, it does, but all things considered. Ooh, Thrasher. This is the Spino guy I was talking about who has Swipe. Attack everyone in the front row for 50% damage, and then hyped. And so, like, if I was up against a bunch of cards with Toxic Secretion or Thorny, that would be pretty bad for this guy. That would go downhill quite fast. And then has Coordinate as a special, which is pretty good. Works out well in situations, and I think this one might be a good one. I'm going to grab him. I feel like I'm probably not going to end up using him, but I'm going to grab him just in case, and then I'm going to get the Brockus afterwards, but I'm going to wait until the next turn, because I don't want to drop below 20, because I want my extra interest. Because it's like I can buy them next round anyway. Just going to wait. Okay. Just making sure that I'm not missing anything. And Alpha is Alphafion. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name wrong. Is here. Say hi, everyone. Hi, Alphaeon. Whatever. Let's see if we can find him. Yeah, this person. Hi! You're on stream! I know you don't know this, but you are! Oh, who's yelling at me? Oh, that's my friend. Probably with relatively personal information. And so you can click on any of these spectate buttons, and you can go look at the other person's match, and then you can either look at their profile if it's a person, or like with a bot, you only have the return to your game option. I'm gonna buy that, and then just gonna slap him in the front, him in the front. Yeah, that's good. And then wait, because hard-headed, so I want him to get hit so he can stun the enemies. Him, because grudge requires him to be hit, so I want him to be hit. And then grab these two for the assailant buff for right now. And I'm gonna refresh because I just want to keep going and see what I can do. Ooh, Kolpak is here. No, maybe. No. I'm thinking. No. Because I was like, ooh, Kolpak, I could do pack mentality to get these two up, but no, I think this is the team I'm gonna go with for right now. Because he has a heal, she has a heal, and she has a heal, and so that would give me a healer 3 synergy, which would be quite nice. And then these two both have rogue, and so they'll get an extra 10% critical strike chance. But yeah, this isn't a pool that looks like it's going to be really easy to make attack 5, so I'm having to go with some different routes. Hello? I'm just going to refresh, see if that skips it. Yeah, okay. It was glitchy. I could replace you. I don't know. I'll go ahead and try and build up both of them. Because it's not going to make a big deal. Either way, it just kind of depends. Because, I mean, the furlog, the deer, it's pretty good. Well, this is the alpine deer, but the deer is pretty good. It has that ability to stun, but rend is also quite strong. Well, actually, we can go ahead and look at companions and compare their stats real quick. I never do this, but yeah, 6 attack, 27, 6, 6, 7, 10, 10. Oh yeah, I don't have one. And go dig up a Kolpak. Okay, so the deer has more of a crit chance than the Kolpak, but the Kolpak does have higher attack, but lower defense. Because the deer had 6 attack for the base, so the Kolpak will deal more damage. It has less defense, but I'm not particularly worried about defense, especially because I'm going to have healers. It does have a bit of a lower crit chance, but 5% compared to 10% isn't a huge deal. So I think I might go with the Kolpak if I can reasonably get him built in time. Because since I didn't start focusing on the Kolpak, I don't have as many Kolpaks as I do the deers, so if RNG loves me enough to get him built up reasonably fast, I'll keep him. Oh, here we are, refresh because I need time. And it doesn't matter which order these guys are in, I'm just balancing them out because, I want the 2 assailants on either side because it makes me feel nice. It makes me happy. I'm gonna splurge, see what I can get a hold of. I almost bought the flurry guy. Oh, finally, Gecko, because my Gecko's still at 1 star. Yay, Gecko! Oh, I'll hopefully be able to. I can just sell him, that's okay. Him up. I'm not doubling, so I don't need it. Check in time, okay. I might just keep him, because he's at 3 stars now. I'll go ahead and keep buying any Kolpaks I see, but for right now I think it's okay. Ooh, let's see how I fare up against Alpha. Doing pretty good. But yeah, I have 2 rogue synergies, so these guys are each getting an extra 10% crit chance. Not that it matters, because they're both currently very weak. Everyone has a 5% dodge from his tack, and they all have a 20% damage bonus from this, and then and then they get some healing at the start of the match, and yeah, I'm gonna win. This round, anyway. I should clarify. I cannot guarantee winning for the entire game. And then, yeah. Yeah, so the Kolpak is a bit stronger. Normally I would never pull it up and look at it, but since I'm streaming, I feel obligated to, put some work into it. But normally I just kind of like, meh, and just figure it out as I went. And right now I'm currently, because this isn't as guaranteed, I'm currently refreshing because I want to see what I can get and think about it. Oh, finally, get my full Pactia up to 2 stars. Yeah, it's looking like this will probably work. Alpha's not doing so hot. So other players are generally your bigger concern. Because, like I said, bots aren't always the brightest in that they can make good teams and they can definitely beat you up, but if they start losing, they don't really think about changing their team comp, as far as I've been able to tell. They just kind of keep going with whatever they're doing. And so it's like, if you win against a bot once, you're probably going to keep winning. They can change every now and then, but by and large, I've just seen them kind of repeat and throw the same thing out there. And I'll go to spectate them to see what's going on, and they'll have like 40 paws, and it's like they're just not smart enough to think about changing up their team, whereas a human being is. And a human being is much more unpredictable in that regard. But yeah, Alpha doesn't look like... I think Alpha's a she. Alpha's not doing so great. So probably going to get dropped out of the round. Maybe not. Maybe it'll come down to us at the end. But if Alpha drops out, then I feel like I'll probably be alright, because this seems to be this is a pretty good comp for just going up against bots, at least. So I should be okay dealing with the bots. Yeah, and you can see I'm not hitting as hard as I was with the last team, where it was all tactician. Oops, all tactician. But I'm still winning pretty easily. Oh, I could swap out for a 3-star. Kolpak next turn. Oh, one thing that I should mention that kind of sucks is that when you can sell them, because you can sell things you don't want to keep anymore. You see this little white thing up here, little piggy bank. It lets you sell it. And if you sell a 1-star, you get 1 paw back, because it costs 1 paw. If you sell a 2-star, you get 3 paws back, because it's made of 3 1-stars, which all cost 3 paws. And then if you sell a 3-star, you only get 6 paws back for some reason, despite the fact that it required a total of 9 1-star cards in order to get a whole 3-star at the end. So technically speaking, it should be worth 9 paws. You only get 6 back, which kind of sucks. So that's one reason I'm kind of like, do I want to make a 3-star Kolpak? Because I won't be able to get all of my investment back if I decide not to. I think I'll be okay, so let's go ahead and do it. Be brave. I brought my phone in here with me. I'm pretty sure. What did I do with it? I know I had my... Oh, there it is. I was going to see what my friend wanted on Discord. This is my friend I've mentioned a few times in Discord before. This is my friend who's moving in with me in a couple weeks. So he's probably... Yeah, it's moving stuff to talk about. And I was like, I don't think y'all need to see that. Like, he's just saying he's going to pay some fees and whatnot. It's like, you don't really need to see that. Honestly, it's not even identifying. It's just not relevant. But yeah, that's my team comp that I'm going with. In case of emergencies, I have a coal pack now. But yeah, I feel pretty confident with this team comp. I'm not hitting as hard as I did with the Max Tactician, but I'm doing pretty good. I feel pretty confident with these guys. I'll just carry them through, and then if I feel like I need to change up a bit, I have a 3-star coal pack that I can pop in when I need. But yeah, that's another example round. I think I'm going to stop after this because it's 9:30 my time, and I have work tomorrow. Also, when I say I'm going to stop after this, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop playing Lorwolf. I'm probably still going to be on Lorwolf. I'm just not going to stop streaming. Especially because I want to get it exported to YouTube. And it's probably going to take a little while for it to load up as a VOD on my channel. Because the previous test streams I did were only a few minutes long at most. So they loaded up pretty quickly, but I'm new to Twitch, so I can't say anything, but from my Googling, it could take a while for the VOD to show up, and yeah, and there goes Alpheon. So, sorry. Oh, no. They're in 9th place. I'm sorry. They don't get a ticket. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Forgive me. If I'd known I was going to get matched up against you, I might have tried to move some of my guys. And yeah, and you guys can hear how my voice is. It was starting to get roughed out earlier, but it's definitely going downhill now. I live in Texas, so it's really hot. So I can get dehydrated quite fast. So talking on top of that, no wonder my voice is just like, I'm dying. Yeah. It's a shame. I don't remember. I think that no, we didn't. Hopefully we might. Here, I'll do this because I want to see if I can get it to do the 15-second thing to show an example of that. I doubt I can get it to stall out because I would generally need oh yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that right before the Kansatonis because they're just going to wipe me out. We're not going to hit the 15-second mark. They're just going to kill me. Oh, well, maybe. Yeah, no, I'm going to die. I was hoping I could get it to the 15-second thing where it will automatically flip over to 15 seconds, but at 15 seconds, but yeah. Yeah, I'll leave them out. Because I have enough health to afford it. And still feel just fine, because again, I'm only up against bots now. So, I'm going to see if I can get it to do that. Because, I mean, I'm sure you believe me, but, you know, just to see. See it in action. But yeah, there's not enough... Even if I wanted to try and switch over to a protector-heavy team in order to try and get it to stall out to show what that looks like, there's not really enough cards, unfortunately, for that to really work. Not really enough, like, protector-heavy cards to get that to work out, I don't think. And the enemy teams don't really have enough of that to where we'd be, like, stuck hitting each other, probably. Ooh, they might... I don't know if we're going to be able to make it to 15 seconds. Come on! Don't die. Don't kill. Everyone stay alive, just for a little bit longer. 5 more seconds, come on! All of you stay alive. Yes. Yeah, there we go. I didn't exceed 20 rounds, like, of them going back and forth. It wasn't calculated to exceed that, so they're okay. Oh, and I can even level up. It wasn't calculated as exceeding that, so it's okay, but it halted at 15 seconds in order to give me time to shop, like I just did. And then refresh. Just need another gecko. No gecko. Sad day. But I'll be okay. Oh, okay. Just checking. Yeah, that's all I can think of to mention right now. Only other thing I can think of would be, more matches and seeing, new team comps that can be used and whatnot. But it's getting late and I'm tired. I'm also getting hot because I turned my AC off in order to. Because again, as I'm sure you've been able to hear, I'm just using the mic on my laptop, so it's not the best quality. So I didn't want to have my AC running because even though I'm in my closet, only literally, not metaphorically, I'm out metaphorically. But even though I'm in my closet, I didn't want that to be any background noise that might make it harder to understand or hear me. So I'm starting to get warm. Because my closet's not particularly well ventilated. But yeah, I can tell that I'm starting to get warm. Not excessively so, just I'm noticing. And yeah, I clearly don't need to get up to 3 stars. I'll definitely win. Oh, yay, but I can, and so I want to. Because it's nice. Because it's not necessarily frustrating to lose when you don't have a full set of 3 stars, but when you have all 3 stars and then all but one card needed to get to a 3 star for the last one, and then the round ends. Not the round, the match ends. It's just like, it was so close. Did it matter? Not really. I still won, but I didn't finish, you know? Oh, these guys might whack each other for a while. Let's see what's going on. Oh. Oh, no. I was like, oh, am I gonna lose? Gecko said no. Gecko said no, we will win. I will destroy them for you. Thank you, Gecko. And yeah, you can see there, Bot has a pretty good setup. Bot was doing pretty good. I still won, easily. They still lost 18 health. But, it's wasn't anything to scoff at. They're doing pretty good. Hang on, let's spectate them. That's automatically gonna push it to the end. Oh, they don't have any pause actually, so they are actually trying. Because like I said, a lot of times you'll go to spectate a bot and it'll just have like 40 pause, and it's like, you could try and change your team, You could try and fix your problems here. And they don't. But, okay, Celeste doesn't have any pause stored up, so Celeste actually trying. It's just a bot. And I'm winning. Because I'm a person. Though that's not always a guarantee, as you could see by that screenshot of me in last place. And what I mentioned earlier, I don't remember if I mentioned it live, but I know I mentioned it in Discord, that a few days ago I came in 8th place against a team that was entirely bots. So that was a little bit embarrassing. And of course, no one would have known about it if I didn't bring it up, but I decided to bring it up because I'm honest about things. But yeah, so when this ends, if anyone has any questions or anything, I'll hang around for a few more minutes, and I'll be in the Discord, obviously. Like I said, I'm not going to bed yet. I'm just closing down stream, but, obviously I'm not disappearing off the face of the earth. And I do want to stream more later. Because as you can see, the cards that are available to you in the shop pool changes every match, and it requires you to re-strategize. And so you gotta change things up as you go, and you gotta work with what you got. Yeah, I'll hit leave game this time. Same effect, as you can see. Ooh, let me pull up something real quick. I'll do it on my phone, because I think... Okay, yeah, it's not in one of my personal accounts, but I'm still logged into one of my personal Google accounts, so I don't think I could pull it up without a direct link, without showing my personal accounts. as I'm logged in, so gonna update it on here, and then drop it in a Discord, so I can flip over to Discord and hop over. Maybe not. That might not work. Anyway, I'll just take a screenshot of it. It's my personal spreadsheet that I have to track how many tickets I have in a lifetime in Arena, and minimum hours spent. And I calculate the tickets because I've kept track of everything I've purchased, and then tracking their value, and then putting in unspent tickets, and it calculates up to the lifetime ticket total. And then minimum hours spent. My personal formula for that is assuming every round takes exactly 20 minutes, and that I did a perfect match and got 5 tickets each time, which, as I said, I've lost before. And not gotten tickets or gotten 1 ticket, and there've been quite a few times I've gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, all over the rainbow. So there are times where that is definitely not the case. And so it assumes that I won full 5 tickets every single match, and that each round was only 20, or each match was only 25 minutes, which is not true. They can very much go longer than that sometimes. And so it calculates a minimum hours spent using that, but that is definitely an understatement by a long shot. So posting it in the Discord now, a screenshot of it to show that I don't have a problem. I'm taking a close-up screenshot of the totals. But yeah, so the minimum hours spent is probably is a very big understatement, and it's probably closer to like 150% that or whatever. So it says 151.6 repeating minimum hours spent. It's probably closer to 200 plus, if we're gonna be honest. But yep. Here we are. My little spreadsheet. Lifetime purchases. Lifetime total of 1,820 tickets. This is just since launch, by the way. This is not counting EA. I did play Arena in EA. Not to the same extent that I have here, but I definitely played quite a lot of it in EA. So this is just since launch. Minimum of 151.66666 hours spent using that formula that I mentioned, but that's just a general formula and is very much not 100% correct, and so it's probably closer to over 200. It's just gonna be real. Just gonna be honest about that one. But yeah, so as you can see, I am the Arena Georg of this game, of Lorwolf, and I did some math yesterday, and I shared it in Discord that I did some calculations, because I think we have about 8,400 players, thereabouts, somewhere around there. And I calculated using just my minimum hours spent from the formula, not even reality of the fact that it's probably over 200, and then calculated how much time every single player would have had to spend a day in Arena in order to hit that amount of hours. And then how much time it means that I have spent on average a day in order to hit that amount of hours. And average Lorwolf player playing 1 second of Arena a day since launch. Actually, statistical error. Average Lorwolf player has played 0 seconds of Arena a day since launch. Lynx Georg, who has played over 2 hours of Arena a day since launch, is an outlier and should not have been counted. Which is why I was like, yeah, I can do a stream on Arena. It's not like I don't live there anyway. But yeah, so I don't have a problem. But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna let it do the infinite loop again for a few minutes and see, if anyone has any additional questions. I feel like a teacher, but if anyone. If not, I'm not like begging for questions. I'm just saying I don't want to cut the stream if someone's still typing in chat. And then make them go over to and then make you go back over to Discord to retype what you were already in the middle of typing. So just gonna wait a couple minutes, probably just scroll on my phone. And if that's it, gonna close out. You're welcome. Yeah, I hope everything made sense. I tried. There's a reason I had a big notes sheet, so that way I could keep track of where I was going, and I tried to think of everything that I felt needed to be mentioned. But if I come storming into the arena lobby in like 30 minutes with like, wait a minute, I forgot, then I tried, but I did my best. But yeah, I just tried to go over the basics, because a lot of it really just comes down to the fact that in order to understand Arena, first you have to understand Lorwolf's combat system. And so I wanted to cover that first too, and then get into like what makes Arena unique. And what it does, and like how it's set up differently from your general everything else, because like I said and like you saw, it doesn't matter like what you have as a player. It's not unlike your campaign and Gauntlet where you can only use things that you have in your party. It doesn't matter what you actually. What am I doing? I can go to the chatting screen. Why am I making us all stare at the infinite loop? What am I doing? I have a chatting screen. But yeah, in campaign and Gauntlet, you can only use what you have on your account. But with Arena, there's a pool of different things that you can use, all the different wolf breeds and all the different companions, and it just depends on what that match's pool is going to be, what you're going to have access to. It has nothing to do with your account. And like you saw, it refreshes every round, and so everything resets. And so it's unique in that regard, but it's still at the same time using the same wolves and companions that are extant everywhere else in the game. So it's still a part of that same combat system. So you need to understand both in order to really be able to understand what's going on. And so I tried to cover both, and then, just talk about some of the strategizing in Arena that you doesn't necessarily, because like you do strategize in the same ways in Arena that you strategize in the rest of your combat, but because you're limited in campaign and Gauntlet to what you have, and you're limited in that you can only use up to 2 companions in your full 5-party team, because you can only use companions that are currently equipped to a wolf, and first you have to put that wolf in the team. Arena involves a lot more of a variety of strategy, because in campaign and Gauntlet you're limited to having up a minimum of 3 wolves in your team in order to max out your party size. You're limited to having 3 wolves, and so when we only have a couple breeds, that's not a lot of different ability sets that you have to work with. And so yes, you can use any companion you want, provided you have it, and so you do bring those things into consideration. But like you saw me using, I think, like the last match was 4 companions and 1 Brockus wolf, and like that's not a strategy that would ever be able to be implemented anywhere but Arena. And so the strategy, I don't know, I know the word strategization, you know what I mean? The strategies used in Arena are just so much more varied, because it's built off the same principles as the rest of the game, but the way you can set up your teams is like infinite variety compared. You have access to everything basically, except for the Kickstarter crane, which I'm not sure why. But it's just a lot more varied, and so I think that that's part of what also makes it more confusing and more intimidating is that the variety is a lot more because while these are all things that exist elsewhere in the game, you're able to use them in ways that you can't use them in the rest of the game. Because in Campaign and Gauntlet, you have to have a minimum of 3 wolves if you want a full party of 5. And in Arena, you can just have 5 companions. It doesn't matter. You can just do whatever you want, provided it's in the shop that match. And so I think that variety of strategizing definitely makes it more intimidating, but it's still, at the same time, it's still built on the same principles as everything else. It's still like the rest of the combat system in the game. It's just allowing you to use it to its full extent. So. And so that can be very intimidating, but once you once you get a feel for things and once you start learning what things are, and start getting more confident, that's part of the reason why I love it, because it's just, there's so much variety and everything changes all the time that I just think that's way more fun. Because I get to just kind of do whatever I want, really, and not, again, dependent on what's in the shop, but I'm not limited to the obligatory 3 wolves. I can just kind of make whatever I want if I think it's going to work. But yeah, again, you're very welcome. I really hope that this helps some people feel a bit less intimidated by it, and helps explain things a bit better. Because it's a lot, but I also feel like once you see it and get over the whole, oh, it's big and overwhelming, because it definitely is. I was very overwhelmed. And sometimes I still get overwhelmed. If I don't see cards that I normally like and I'm having to think on the, actually think on the fly, because even in that second match, I still saw cards that I generally liked, and so I still had a decent grasp on what I wanted to do. But sometimes I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm going to do here. I have no idea what to do with this. And so it can be very overwhelming, but at the same time, I think it all still kind of makes sense. It's one of those things where there's a lot, but it's organized well once you understand what everything is and where everything has its place. It does line up and fall into place, but there's just a lot of different pieces, and that can be very intimidating and overwhelming, even for me still sometimes. Because, I've played a lot, but there are times where it's just even though I've played a lot, sometimes with that first match, I didn't really think about anything. I saw cards for Tactician, and there wasn't really much thought going into that match. I wasn't really experimenting or trying anything. I wasn't really thinking while playing that match because I saw things that I knew were really good and were really strong, and I just popped them in and I won. Easy peasy. Didn't really have to think about anything. So even playing a lot doesn't even necessarily mean that all of that time is me necessarily learning anything. So, I'm definitely going to have to, keep playing and learning more and experimenting with things. And back in EA, I was a huge Dueler fan, and then eventually I realized it sucked and I felt really bad because I was just so disappointed because it sounds so good, but it's really not. It's unreliable at best, and it's just oh, it's so sad. Because I want to love it, but it doesn't work. But then I also hated support when I first started, and I'm starting to see that, no, support can be useful. And Grudge, on the Gecko, no, I hated Grudge. I hated the Makaira, which has Retribution and Grudge. Retribution is an auto attack, where it attacks the last 2 enemies that have attacked it for 75% damage. But again, if you haven't attacked it, if nothing's hit it, then it can't do any damage with its auto attack. And so I didn't like that, it's the same principle that Grudge operates off of. And so I really didn't like that when I first started. I was like, no, that's horrible. I don't want to use that ever. But now I'm starting to go, no, it can be used. Again, you have to make sure that the card is going to get hit. But no, it can work pretty well. It can work quite well. The Gecko is extremely strong. And is an extremely loved card, and it's very powerful, and it has grudge, and so grudge and retribution can be used. And so I'm starting to get over my initial, I don't like it. Patience, however, I don't think I'm ever going to get over. Patience sucks. Who invented that idea? Who was like, yeah, let's just put a card in that does nothing. Great! Mm-hmm. Alright. Well, if that's it, I'm gonna close down, and like I said, it's not like I'm disappearing off the face of the earth. I'll be over in Discord like normal, and hopefully, I don't know when I'll stream again. I'm moving in a few weeks, and I don't know exactly when. We got new management back in March, and it's been just everything's on fire ever since then. We're getting there. It's whatever. We're getting there. Um, but yeah, so I don't know if I'm gonna have time to stream, but we'll see. It'll depend. Because I mean, moving's also one of those things where it feels so intimidating, but then once I announced that, oh, hey, I'm going to stream, and then I was like, okay, I have like 40 minutes to do whatever, I packed up most of my clothes in a tub, and it took me like 15, 20 minutes. Because it's like I'm just moving to a new apartment on the same complex, so I don't even have, so it's not like I'm going very far away. So I'm not super worried about having everything neat and organized. I'm probably just going to drag the tub over there, dump it on the floor or whatever, because I don't have a lot of moving tubs, and then just bring it back over. And reload some more stuff, and so I was like, oh, this is such a big and intimidating thing, and then it turned out not to be. And it's like, oh, well, that's a good 10% of it done already. Took me 20 minutes. But yeah, so I say I don't know if I'm gonna have time to stream just because I don't want to promise anything, and also because it took me so long to get this done and to get this ready. But to be fair, a lot of that was because I had to make sure I had everything set up, so I was, and like have the presentation made and whatnot, and make sure Twitch was working, which took a lot longer to set up than I thought it would. So there was a lot of setup process involved. Either way, I'll definitely stream some more after I move in any case, but hopefully before. And I'm around in Discord like every day. It's not so. Yeah, cool. Such is life. I have no idea how long this VOD is going to take to load up once it's done, but we will see. Where's the... Oh yeah, I end from those two. Well, have a good time zone, which is something that I picked up from some server a long time ago, where it's just like, instead of saying have a good morning, afternoon, evening, just have a good time zone. So have a good time zone, and I don't know, I was about to say see you later, but like, what am I saying? We're all in the same Discord, and I'm gonna be in Discord right afterwards. See you in like 20 seconds.